What's going on, my friends? Welcome to the Seeking Excellence podcast, the number one podcast for young Catholics who want to pursue personal greatness in this life. And I am so excited for 2025. Happy New Year. It is great to be back. Man, I love taking a break during Advent. It's one of the best, kind of just taking a pause. And I still put out some videos and things like that on locals. But being able to just take a little break from podcasting is huge, but I miss it so much. I love to come back. It's so good to be recording again and really excited to share today's episode with you. Man, it got longer than I anticipated it would be, and I got into more detail, more depth than I anticipated I would. But I think it's one of the best episodes I've recorded when it comes to setting goals, strategizing, the three foundations of excellence. I basically spend the first little bit trying to sell you on why you should be setting goals in your life. And if you are somebody who does set goals in your life, then I hope that you'll share that wisdom or those perspectives and those points with other people in your life who don't. And if you're not somebody who sets goals in your life, then I hope that you will, after you hear the first, 15, 20 minutes of this episode, that you'll be fired up and ready to go. Then we'll spend some time reflecting on 2024, some of your best moments of 2024, some of your low points of the year, and really going deeper than that. Not just doing this kind of surface level. You hear a lot of people, spend 15 minutes thinking about your life or reflecting or planning goals. That's not what this is. If you want to just kind of set goals and be one of the vast majority of people who sets goals and then doesn't achieve them or look at them again to the end of the year, this episode isn't for you. If you want to really get after it in 2025 and help make this one of the best years of your life, where you can look back in December of 2025 and say, man, I can't believe all that I accomplished this year. I can't believe all the wonderful and amazing things God did in my life this year. If that's what you want, this is going to be a great episode for you. You're going to really enjoy it. And if you do really enjoy it, you get a lot of value out of it, I ask that you subscribe, share this with other people, join us on YouTube, join us on Locals, follow me on Instagram, follow me on LinkedIn. Get content like this as much as you can throughout this year, because I have big plans for this year. We're going to be bringing the podcast back a little bit stronger than we did in 2024. I dropped down to one episode a week in 24, and I did not love that. So this year, my plan is to do go back to multiple episodes per week. We'll have an extended kind of detailed episode like this that's really focused on excellence in some capacity. And then we'll have a shorter episode that's going to be more focused on current events or news or things like that. That'll be coming out weekly as well on Fridays, and kind of highlighting the biggest news stories and things from the week, reacting to different things. And then I'll have shorter episodes of the week that'll be kind of little hitters, just kind of snippets of different aspects of personal growth, development, the faith, whatever it is. Those will kind of be rotated through. And those are going to be mainly geared towards YouTube. So those are going to be a lot of reaction videos as well, or just kind of, analyzing or taking part of other pieces of content, tying them in. Still be available on audio only, but those are going to be more geared towards a YouTube audience. The news ones will kind of be an in-between as well, where you'll be able to listen to it, but it's going to be better. The better experience is going to be on YouTube on video. So I'm trying to get more and more into video content, where this longer early week episode is going to be more geared towards the podcast audience. And so whether you're somebody that's listening or you're watching me on YouTube or on Locals or anywhere else right now, thank you for being here. It's great to be back. I'm excited for 2025, Seeking Excellence. We're getting into our 5th anniversary this year, which is crazy and super exciting. But just pumped to be here, pumped to be with you guys, and excited to see what this year has in store for us. I think we can make these next 4 to 5 years the best 4 to 5 years of our lives. We have big plans in our lives over the next 5 years. We have a great 5-year plan that's starting in 2025. And I'm just so excited to be on this journey with you. And so I hope that you'll hear that passion as we go through this. And these tips are going to be very practical. This is one that I encourage you, as I listen to a lot of great podcasts myself. I'm texting myself. I'm using my notes app as I'm on a walk or whatever, and typing in different things that really stand out to me. And so I want this to be one of those episodes for you where you're not just listening passively, but really take some of this to heart. The things that stand out to you the most, write them down and implement them. Don't just listen to this. Do something with this. That's what I want Seeking Excellence to be this year. Not just something that's entertaining. I'm going to have episodes like that are just fun to listen to. But mostly I want you to really do something with your life this year. I want you to really take yourself to the next level. And I want to be a part of that in some capacity if I'm making good and valuable content that is going to help you to do that. So without further ado, let's get to today's episode. Happy New Year. It's great to have you back. In In 2024, only 3 in 10 Americans made New Year's resolutions. And of that surprisingly tiny group, only 9% actually kept their resolutions for an entire year. Now, you may hear those numbers and be very unsurprised. Maybe you ask people, like I did to my family at dinner on New Year's Day, hey, did you make any New Year's resolutions this year? The answer that I got back most often was no. And you get to see that in so many people in your life, in the world, the people that we know, your coworkers. Maybe they think of something. Usually, I think it's like 89% or something like that are physical related, physical fitness related. But maybe you really relate to the not the 9%, but to the 91% of people who do not keep their resolutions for an entire year, or who just fail to see their resolutions really make any meaningful impact in their lives. And I think that is what obviously contributes to there being 70% of Americans who don't make any resolutions year over year. I personally was very pleased at Mass on New Year's Day, for the Solemnity of Mary, the Mother of God, to hear my parochial vicar in his homily encourage all of us to make New Year's resolutions. He talked about the first reading where we hear the Aaronic blessing, or the blessing of Aaron, that's given to Moses for him and Aaron to bless the Israelites. A beautiful blessing, when I want to start implementing in my family life, to bless my son, bless my wife. And Father Sean's point was, how is God going to bless you in 2025? How is God going to bless you this year? And how are you going to be open to God's blessing this year? And I want to get into that a little bit today. What are some of our hopes and dreams are for the year? But I want to kind of take a different approach to not just, everybody talks about goal setting in the beginning of January. Everybody talks about setting goals, New Year's resolutions, all of that. But this episode is really more about strategizing for your year. So I want to hit on, obviously, how do we set goals? How do we pick what's most important to us? But also, how do we actually create a strategy, the accountability, the structure, the systems, and the habits that are going to help us to actually accomplish those this year, so that we don't end up in that 91% that does not see their goals through to the end of the year, or does not ultimately accomplish their goals. But I want to begin with just kind of telling you why I'm so excited about the new year. Every year, New Year's comes and I get super, super pumped. And I think for me, one of the reasons is, and the thing that I really want to share with you today, is that you have to learn how to embrace the arbitrary. What I mean by that is you have to be willing to embrace certain things that may seem insignificant, but can be used as kind of guide points, mile markers, checkpoints along your road and your journey to success and you becoming your best. And these include things like New Year's, obviously, but it also includes things like your birthday, right? So for me, I'm really blessed that I have a July birthday. I think it's the best month of the year to be born, but that's certainly some bias. But I think the reason why I think that is because I get basically 2 points every year with New Year's and my birthday, which are essentially 6 months apart. I was born July 17th. And so I'm just past the, having my half birthday be New Year's Day. But you get these points throughout the year where you get to stop and say, okay, hey, how did I do in 2024? And then in July of this year, I'll reflect, how did I do in my second year of life, right? As I turn 32. I'll be thinking back over the past year and thinking about the highs and the lows, and it gives me a reflection point that kind of forces me to do what we could all do just halfway through the year. We're just kind of checking where we at in our yearly goals. Is our life heading in the direction that we want it to be? And are we growing and developing as a person in the areas that matter most to us and to those who are most important to us? So that's what I mean when I say embrace the arbitrary. You'll hear people out there, there'll be haters and naysayers who say, oh, who cares about New Year's? It's just the turn of the calendar. It's just the end of the year. Or you'll have a lot of negative people. I love seeing that on New Year's Eve, watching the shows, and Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve and all these things. You see some people in there who are like, thank God 2024 is over. Well, you might be one of those people. Maybe you're a pessimistic person that says every year, oh, thank God this year's over. Hopefully this year is better. And then, of course, we had tragic news on New Year's Day, and it's like, oh, this is going to be a terrible year. You don't have to live that way. As Dave Ramsey always says, the person who's in the White House is much less important than the person that's in your house. And that's not only true to who's in the White House, that's true for everything that's happening around us. You get to control what kind of year you're going to have. I think you have some years that if things really do get chaotic and outside of your control. I think 2020 was one of those. You can still have a good 2020. I think I still had a good 2020 in general. But I do recognize that that year was filled with a lot of tragedy, hardship, challenges that we just didn't predict or could have never really seen coming. And so, but you have a lot of times where you have kind of normal years like 2024, even though were there news stories? Was there craziness? Was there things to be upset about? Was there things to be anxious about? Sure, of course, there always are. There always will be. But does that mean that the year was awful and we need to just be like, oh, thank God this year is over? It was so rough. It wasn't rough. I had a great year. It was one of the best years of my life. I was reflecting with my wife doing our 3-hour planning meeting. And I said, man, this was really one of the best years of my life. I just can't believe the memories that we made, the things that we did, going on our first family vacation, hitting new milestones in so many different aspects of our lives. I lost a good amount of weight in 2024, developed friendships, fun trips with friends, visiting people, seeing people, and just had a great time deepening relationships and friendships here in Denver. And it was really just a meaningful year, and saw a lot of professional growth, financial growth, all of that. And it was just beautiful. And it was awesome to see it. It was awesome to have that reflection to say, wow, this was a really good year. Then you see people online or whatever saying, oh, this is so rough. The key way to make sure that your year is rough is to make sure that your success or your happiness in any given year is dependent on other people. If you're dependent on what other people do, especially, and you can amplify that the further away you are from those people. So I live very far from the president's house in the White House in Washington, D.C. But even if you lived next door to the White House, you still metaphorically, the influence that you have over them, the power that you're giving somebody who's so far outside your sphere of control, your sphere of influence, is insane. He doesn't know your name. He's not making decisions based on you. And that goes true for if you work in a really big company, the CEO of that company. Like, there's times where you just have to make changes, but you get to decide by taking responsibility and ownership over this year. You get to decide what the end of 2025 is going to look like. And that's what I really want to drive home for you in this episode of thinking about 2025 and what you hope to get from it. It really comes down to what I call the 3 foundations of excellence. And those are ownership or responsibility, intentionality, which is what this is all about, and courage. You have to have intentionality, because if you have no intentionality, then you're just kind of drifting throughout life. And we've all seen people who are drifting to the maximum degree, right? Maybe these are people who you see on the streets who are addicted to drugs and alcohol. Or they're people who are just, the guy that that's 32 and living in his mom's basement and hasn't really launched yet. Doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life. Hasn't had a serious relationship in a decade, right? We all see people like this. And we all dabble in that to some degree in our own lives. If you've ever taken part of and done what I call the examination of excellence, you can see this, where this exists most powerfully in any area of your life. Are you actually budgeting and making a plan for your finances? Do you have a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan? Do you have plans for your relationships and goals for your relationships? Do you have intentionality in what you eat? Or are you just kind of passively going to the grocery store and just picking up whatever feels right or whatever looks good? Do you have a plan for your health? Do you have a plan for your learning and how you're going to continue to cultivate and develop your mind over the next, 60 years of your life or however long you have left? Do you have a plan for your professional life, your career, mapped it out? If my ideal role, what is my ideal role? A lot of people don't even know. They can't even tell you. They just know they're unhappy in their job. They've never taken 15 minutes to stop and think about what their life really means to them. I'll never forget. I had a friend who really embodied this. He's about 5 years younger than me, and I was trying to coach him when he was getting out of college. He was getting out of college, and then he got out of college, and then he's like a year out. And I remember telling him he was kind of like one of my first coaching clients, if you will, and but unofficially. And I was telling him, hey, this is the way that I kind of developed my dream role. This is the way that I utilized this criteria to grade each of my career opportunities after the Army. This is how I decided what I wanted to go do. And I would say, but you have to think about, what is your ideal role? If you could do anything to make money, what would it be? I'm not telling you to follow your heart and just do whatever makes you happy, but if you could draft it up, what would it look like? And then we get a job that can help us to get there. But first, let's start with just thinking about, what does that look like for you? 2 months go by, 3 months go by, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Have you done any of that? Have you thought about it? No, I still need to do that. I still need to think about it. I'm like, what do people think about all the time? I just don't understand how people hate their lives so much that they literally won't spend 15, 20, 30, 60 minutes, even in an entire year, to just be a little bit intentional and plan out their lives. So that's what I'm challenging you to do. When I set my goals for this year and did my reflections on 2024, I'm not kidding that it was probably 2 to 3 hours of work. And then I did another 2 to 3 hours with my wife. And so that's talking about being intentional. We get to this meeting with my wife, and almost every kind of bullet point that we're going down through, because we have a lot of plans. As many of you know, we plan to move to Kansas City next year. We have multiple different streams of income, many of which we're trying to develop, and that I have, big dreams and visions for. And I'm explaining to her, and I'm breaking it all down. And we're going to this, and I say, hey, if we get to this point in the year and we're selling the house, and if A happens, then this is what we're going to do. If B happens, then this will be our housing budget in Kansas City. This is what we're going to do. If C happens, then this is what we're going to do. And it's just like almost every point along the way, along this whole path, it's like, okay, there's going to be forks in the road. And I want to know, what are my general options and what is going to be my decision-making criteria when I get to that point. A lot of people will say, and this is one of the most toxic mindsets I think a lot of Catholics have. Man makes plans and God laughs. Okay, that's probably true. But does that mean that God wants you to make no plans? No. It just means you need to be surrendered to whatever God's will is. So God could get to the point where I have all these plans, all these financial plans and goals and all these things, and we have this plan to move to Kansas City, and we get to April, and it's very clear God doesn't want us to move there. Okay, then we don't move there. But would it be better if I didn't have a plan? See, God a lot of times actually gives us his will and he lays it out, but he doesn't tell us exactly what to do in every step of the way, every single decision. At least not like he gives us a written book and it's like every single step you're supposed to take, this is it. So you're always praying and discerning. But I used to tell people in the Army this, that you're not discerning staying in the Army if you don't know what your other options are. Let me say that again. You're not discerning option A truly if there is no option B. Because if you've only given yourself one choice for survival or some of these major decisions in your life, then it's not discernment if you choose the one choice, because it's your only option. So what I tell people all the time is I give myself this ideal vision that I think, I work with God, I pray with it, I think about it, and I say, God, this is what I really want. I read this great book, Desire by John Eldredge, author of Wild at Heart, that many of you have read. And he talks about how God works through our desires a lot of times. How else would God call us to different things? It's not that some Catholics are so like puritanistic that they think, because I think it's kind of the heavy weight of chastity sometimes to people, is that we view chastity so wrongly that we think that God just gives us all these rules that he doesn't want us to be happy or to have fun, because we have sexual ethics and we have morality. And then we kind of take that mindset, we take that toxic mindset and this wrong approach to sexuality, we take that to everything in our lives, where it's like God just has all these rules and he doesn't want us to be happy. That's not true. One of the best ways God helps us to know, just like I first was attracted to my wife physically. I saw her on Instagram, and we met on Instagram, as many of you know. Well, I saw her physically and not even in person, but I was like, wow, that's a beautiful woman. And that's what started. I had this desire for her. Does that mean my desire was sinful, toxic? No, it could have become that, and it could have been that, but it wasn't. And I had this first desire to say, hey, I want to get to know her. Then I had this desire to want to date her. Then I had this desire to want to marry her. And that's what continued to go. And guess what? My desire for her continues on, and it now leads to us having children. And there's a lot that obviously you can connect the dots there, what I'm saying, but desire is a good thing. Does it have to be contained? Does it have to be chaste? Does it have to be driven through love? Yes. But are all desires bad? You desire to live somewhere. You desire to go to Rome. I want to take my family to the Holy Land. I desire to have a certain job. I desire to make a certain impact in the world, in my life. Is that bad? No. But some of you just have like muted these things, or you just don't have any, which I think is really kind of effeminate and just like a dulled down, like you have no passion and no drive for life. And I think a lot of people have kind of taken this silly approach to man makes plan and God laughs. And I've had people say that to me when I express my dreams or my visions or the things I want to accomplish. And I'm like, I'm a faithful dude. I get it. Like, I have to be open. God could just totally, I could be a prisoner of war in 5 years. Like, who knows what could happen in my life, right? I could be dead in 2 years, but what if I'm not? God could call us away from Kansas City, but what if he doesn't? He's already made it pretty clear that that's the plan. Maybe he just wanted to see if I was open to moving. Okay, then I stay here. I hold these things with loose grips, but to just not have any plan, no intentionality is really, really dumb. And it doesn't make you holier. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you more virtuous to just drift through life like a secular vagabond that just has no direction or no goals or no aims, right? I think even you think back to Mother Teresa, you think back to Fulton Sheen, you think that these people didn't plan anything? Mother Teresa obviously walked by faith in so many ways, but there's also many that sat down and strategized. And I think that she even sometimes strategized of like, okay, God, how do you want me to do this? What is the next step? Where should I open my next convent? Where should our next location be that you want us to serve the poor? It takes discernment. It takes planning. Could God have changed it once she started building the next convent? Yes. Did she say yes sometimes if she didn't have the money to build the next convent? Probably. And so God asks us to walk in faith too, but he also asks us to work with him to make plans and make strategies. Okay, so as promised, that was part one. That's your sales pitch on why you should set goals for 2025. But before we get into that, now we're going to talk about this next section of this podcast episode. First thing we want to do actually is reflect on 2024. So what goals did you set in 2024? And if you don't have them anymore, that's a massive problem in this century, right? Because you should be using Google Drive, Google Docs, your notes app in your phone, something where you can go back and reflect. Do I recommend writing them down? Do I recommend journaling and actually putting pen to paper? Absolutely. I'm all for that. I do that all the time. And then I take those things and I put them into the computer. Right? Because why? Because I'm not a Neanderthal, and I know the internet exists. And I know what iCloud is. And so I think that's really useful to say, okay, I have journals, man, I have a journal, I have legal pads, I just got this new sketchbook, which is really great. I don't sketch, I don't draw, but I just love a big blank white sheet of paper. And so I've been doing all of the things that you're not going to see because I'm not going to share my personal one with you. I'm going to share stories and snippets of it, but not the whole thing. But if you could see it, you'll see that it's 5 pages and all of it is coming from different aspects. Some of it I brainstormed while working in the dock, but others that are just different sheets of paper that I had all over my office that I do. I like putting pen to paper. I like being in the chapel away from technology while I'm doing these things, or in my office, putting the phone down, closing the computer, whatever, and just kind of brainstorming thinking. But then I have to eventually type it up because I live in the 21st century and you should too. So if you have your goals from last year, review them. That should be obvious, right? What's one of the main reasons why you don't, why 91% of people don't stick with them throughout the year? They never see them again. And so one of my big things, I always print them off and I have them in a place in my office that I can see them all the time. Ideally, once a month, Emily and I are checking on those. And then halfway through the year, you check on some of those. And then 3/4 of the way through the year, you're like, all right, it's the fourth quarter. If I'm going to get any of these done and be proud of myself at the end of the year, I need to say, okay, which ones can I do? Because I probably can't do them all. Which ones do I want to prioritize? And then you go ahead and set those and start working towards them. Now, not only did you achieve them, I don't want you to just check the box or not. I want you to look at your goals from 2024. We're going to reflect. And even if you haven't set any goals for 2024, I want you to think to other times that you've set goals. What were your goals for the quarter or the month or something you just know you wanted to do and you didn't get done or that you did achieve? But we're going to reflect and analyze now to say what helped me to achieve those goals or what was it that actually inhibited me achieving those goals. I genuinely believe that analyzing your hits and misses are just as important as setting the goals in the first place, right? It's taking time to really think through and analyze what helped me to succeed or what caused me to fail this year. If we don't have that, what are we doing? You're not going to be able to hit the things that you want to hit if you're not actually going back through and doing this after action review where you actually analyze and take note of, okay, I crushed it here or I really struggled here. This point, I, really did a great job and this is why. This part I really missed. So let me give you an example of a couple things from my life. So one of the goals that I hit was reading. So I had a set a goal just to read 24 books last year and I hit 27. One of the things that really helped with that was I got really dedicated in the last several months, third of the year, to listening to audiobooks rather than only listening to podcasts. So I started reintroducing audiobooks back into my life. I also started to narrow down because I had several months there in the middle of the year where I was reading like 5 or 6 books at a time. Now I'm a person that almost has to read at least 2. I'm usually listening to one and then I'm usually like reading 2, going through 2 others. Right now, I think I'm technically reading 3 because I have one with my men's group, one that I'm just reading by myself, and then one that I'm reading for work. And then I'm listening to one. Now, I read those in different contexts and different times, and I'm okay with that because I'm working through the one with my men's group. And so it's not one that I'm like reading every day. I read it before we meet together, which is every other week. So I have these different categories, but I can go back and say, okay, I hit my reading goal, even though I was really behind. I'll go back and I track by month how many books I finish in a month. So I can see every month. So I can say, okay, June, I only had 11 finished, but I finished with 27. Why was that? That's because I really started prioritizing the audiobooks, and I really stopped reading so many where I was reading 5 and 6 books. I really limited it down and actually tried to finish a few. I actually started to see them through, right? So that made a big difference. Contrarily, my weight goals, lost weight, got down from probably 245 to, I think my lowest last year was 228. If I wasn't using my phone to help record right now, I would check that. But I think it was around 228. And man, it was something that I did really well there for a while. One of the things that helped me get down to 228 was doing a fitness competition. So having some accountability with a friend of mine. So we did a challenge. I lost, he won, and we bet just a really nice dinner with each other. And I had to take him out to dinner, which was expensive, but good. He was well deserving of that dinner, and he's done a lot for me in my life. So I was happy to thank him with that. But what happened after that was I started to gain weight again. I realized, wow, I lost the accountability. I lost the drive to really do my best. Also, one of the deepest things that happened for me last year was realizing I have a really bad relationship with food. That I actually am somebody that really struggles with saying no to any, especially free food, right? And that means free food and drink. So if somebody offers me a soda, or somebody offers me a beer, or somebody offers me a donut, or somebody offers me whatever it is, I'm just, if I want it, if I think it looks good, I'm so prone to saying yes. I have very, very little discipline in that realm. And that was something I learned about myself and really reflected on throughout last year and started to get better at. I started to say, okay, I'm going to skip a meal here, or I'm going to skip this side that I want. But really, I started to see it as more of a spiritual thing. My inability to fast, my inability to say no, my inability to discipline my body, that I think also stems from so many years of struggling with lust and chastity and all those things as well. It's just, wow, I have a really bad ability to tell my body no, or to discipline my body. And that was something I was good at for a while when I was in really good shape in the army and I was getting up early in the morning because I had to. But it's like, okay, how disciplined I am is not how disciplined I am in the army. And a lot of times people think that. They're like, oh, you're in the military, you must be super disciplined. It's like, well, you go to jail ultimately if you just don't do what they tell you to do. So I don't know that it's really discipline. If I put a gun in your face and tell you to do 100 burpees, that doesn't make you disciplined that you did it. If I threaten to arrest you if you don't do it, or if I threaten to fine you monetarily, and sure, you're not gonna get fined or imprisoned right away, but ultimately you're gonna get in some pretty big trouble if you just stop showing up for PT. So it doesn't make you disciplined. You learn some discipline by still doing things you don't want to do, but I get to really see where I'm at with my discipline over these last 4 or 5 years of my life that I've been out of the army. And I've gotten to see, okay, how disciplined are you when you don't have to do it? What do you do when nobody's watching? That's really the type of person that you are. I tell college kids this all the time. Maybe you saw my reel before the Christmas holiday last year, where I say that if you're a college kid, your spiritual life, especially if you're at like a really good Catholic school, or you're involved in a Catholic Newman Center, your spiritual life is not what your life is when you're at Franciscan, when you're at Benedictine, and all your friends go to daily mass and they're going to confession once a week, and the chapels are all over campus and they're open 24/7. That's not what your spiritual life is really like. Your spiritual life is really what it is when you go home for Christmas break, when you have to drive to a church, when you have to get up early to go to daily mass, when you don't have to wake up early. You're not already up and mass is at noon. No, now mass is at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. or 6:30, and you have to get up when you don't have any plans until 10 a.m. or noon with your friends or family. That's where your spiritual life is really at. When it's inconvenient, what do you do? And as the inconvenience goes up, does your discipline match it, or do you start to wane off? These are the things you want to be thinking about and reflecting on in 2024. Why? Because it's helpful for me to know that as I go into 2025. Other things that are going to be really helpful in shaping my goals and where I want to go is thinking about my highs and lows of the year. I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but my best times of the year were really when the three of us were really having fun together as a family. And so our family vacation in Florida, definitely my best week of the year. And I would say parts of it were probably just my highest point of the year. What does that help me to do, to know? Well, in 2025, I want to make sure that I'm budgeting for a family vacation, for some time off with my family, ideally away from home. But it also helps me to say, okay, I obviously value family vacations. This was really enjoyable to me. It really was a reliever of stress. We had a really nice time together. It was good for my marriage. It was good for my fatherhood. And so it helps me to say, okay, when I'm setting financial goals for the next 5, 10 years of my life, I know that I want that to be a thing that continues. And I plan to have more kids, God willing. So we'll see what happens there. But if we want to have more kids and we want to keep going on vacation, just for context, it doesn't get cheaper to go on vacation as a family. So you have to be making more money. And so that has to be included in my financial and professional goals. And so all of that helps you to see, okay, what else were my highs for the year? Okay, well, getting promoted, that made me really happy as well. And it helped to, facilitate some of the rest of these things and the financial ease and lacking, easing the financial burden of our family. What were some of the lows of the year? Well, I didn't get to play golf as much as I would like to. I like to try to go at least twice a month during the warmer months of the year. And I was far from that. I think I only golfed like 3 times in 2024. Now, it's also helpful to know, okay, from 1 to 10, is that really something that's really important? Or is it something that was just kind of a nice to have? And for me, that's definitely a nice to have. So I see if I can fit that in, but I'm not going to start with trying to put that in. Other wins or highs from the year was developing my prayer life, strengthening my prayer life a lot more. A miss from the year was I actually didn't go to daily mass very often. And so I kind of had a low period of daily masses. And so you can kind of think about this. What were kind of the highs and lows? What were some of the highest points of the year, your best memories from the year? What were some of your most difficult times of the year? Emily and I had great reflections on this of the times where we were having the most conflict in our marriage, where we were feeling we weren't on the same page, we were struggling with our unity, and we sat there and we talked about, okay, why is that? What do you think was the cause of that? If it improved throughout the year, what do you think helped it to improve? And how can we think about that and tie that into whatever we're going to do going into 2025? And then lastly, as you're reviewing the year, you want to be thinking about how you grew or how you regressed in all these different areas of life, what I call the 7 pillars, right? But hitting on main areas spiritually, financially, professionally, relationships, and fitness. How did you grow or regress in those different areas of your life? Spiritually, big picture, did you go closer to God or further away from God in 2024? Financially, did your net worth grow? If you don't know what your net worth is, why not, right? You need to be tracking it. Did your income grow in 2024? One of the things I have a pretty big number that I shoot for every year over year growth in my income. And it's like, okay, did I hit that number? And I surpassed it in 2024, which was great. Professionally, did you, hit any professional goals that you have? I work in sales, so it's easy to set goals for the year. I also set goals in the performance reviews that I want to get throughout the year. Relationships, did you grow in any of your key relationships this year? Your relationship with your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your spouse, your children, whatever it is. Which relationship did you want to grow, and did you grow it or did you not? And if you regressed in any relationships, do you want to improve those in 2025? And if so, let's include that as we turn to the next section here. And then lastly, your fitness. Are you in better or worse shape than you were last January? Is the belly rounder or flatter than it was last January? Did you accomplish the things that you wanted to accomplish physically? For me, that was one of those that was like kind of true. Like I weigh less than I did last January, but I don't weigh what I hope to weigh at the end of 2024. And so trying to recommit, regain some momentum there in fitness, which has been good because I've been going to the gym pretty consistently for the last 2 months. How many books did you read in 2024? Did you grow mentally? We always try to set goals in the mental space of picking different areas of life that we want to learn more about. So Emily wanted to learn about early childhood development because she's a stay-at-home mother of a toddler and about to have her second kid. I don't know if I set a specific area that I wanted to learn about last year. Oh no, that's not true. I set a goal last year to read 12 spiritual books throughout the year, and I think I did 10. And so I was a little bit shy on that, but it still helped me throughout the year when I was picking what books I wanted to read to say, okay, I know I want to read spiritual books this year. And so I can be very prone to reading personal growth. I can be prone to reading real estate books, finance, all that kind of stuff, business books. But I said this year, I want to really focus my energy on spiritual reading. And so that's what I did. And it didn't end up perfect, but it did work out to where I read more spiritual books in 24 than I did in 23. Okay, now we get to go to what you really want to do probably, which is actually start to plan and to strategize for 2025. So now we're taking a look at this year and what we have coming up. So we know we have a new president coming in, and we know that this year is going to have some crazy things in the news. So we already can expect that and we can anticipate that. It's good to try to think about things you can anticipate in the world. It's even more important to think about and anticipate the obstacles and things they're going to face in 2025. And so for us, big picture things, right? Thinking throughout the year. two major transitions we're going to have to make this year as a family. One is welcoming our beautiful baby daughter into the world in the next probably 60 days. And then we have the move that we plan to make. And we're kind of planning two moves because we really do plan to live in Atchison at Benedictine College for a short stint, hopefully around 60 to 90 days. That's not locked in or solidified, but it's possible. Then we have another move from there into the house that we plan to buy, wherever that is. So we have to house hunt and all of those things. So I can anticipate, okay, there's some big rocks, right? So the big things I got to put into my year are I have to anticipate that I'm going to have a second child. I have to anticipate paternity leave, which is going to impact career goals and professional goals and things like that. I will be hands-on with the toddler there, especially for the first month. Then I have to pack up the house and move, sell a bunch of stuff in the house because we're not moving with a lot of the furniture and things that are in this house. So we got that to consider. Then I have to consider moving into a new house, living there temporarily, figure out where I'm going to work from there, how I'm going to podcast, studio, all that kind of stuff. Then I got to move on to the next thing, which is buying a house. And then I have to move into that house, right? So those are some big things. Those are some huge things that are going to happen this year. There's a number of other big things. Those aren't the only big things that are going to happen this year. There's a lot going on, but those are some things I have to think about and kind of plan for. And I know going in, okay, when I'm setting these goals, I have to keep in mind that I have some major transitions and some major obstacles that I'm going to face. So then I can think about, okay, do I want to tamper down my goals a little bit because of that? Or do I want to just try to really plan and strategize of how I'm going to continue going in the midst of that transition and the turbulence of all that? Even better is when I come together with my spouse and I communicate that and we talk about, okay, what does postpartum look like for you? What's your ideal journey of postpartum? How can I be the best husband I can be in postpartum while you're going through your recovery process? How can I help you better in the delivery room this time? How do we anticipate wanting to use maybe some of my paternity leave during the week that we want to move out of Colorado, right? So we have all these different things. I'm having these conversations. Why? Because I come to the table saying, here are the big things we're going to face this year that could throw us off from our plan that we have. As a family, we have obviously a huge vision for our whole lives, but then we bring back that end of life vision to a 10-year plan. We have a very, very detailed 5-year plan that has an annual benchmarkers. If you're somebody that you're like, man, this is so over my head, I have no vision for my life, I really don't know where I want to be in 5 to 10 years, then my number one recommendation to you is to check out the Excellent Life program. So you've probably heard, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you've probably heard me talk about this, but I want to just share some detail on it now that we're getting close to launching. The Excellent Life program is a 12-month program that I've set up based on the Seeking Excellence philosophy. This allows you to work with me one-on-one, where we will be going over where you currently are at in life. We'll be helping you to create this vision, this long-term vision for your entire life, a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan, and then annualizing it out from those 5-year goals that you have. And I'll be working alongside of you with that. We'll be analyzing your spiritual life, your relationships, your mental toughness, your mental health. We'll talk about your finances, your professional goals, and kind of creating a career trajectory for you through that. We'll be going through every single one of the 7 pillars and doing some awesome exercises and homework, meeting one-on-one to discuss this and to talk about the obstacles that you're facing or anticipate facing, talking about anxiety or fears that you have, and really just helping you to go to the next level. So we got different pricing tiers and pricing options for that. If you're interested in that, you can join us at Locals, seekingexcellence.locals.com, where you can learn more about it, or just shoot me a message on Instagram or LinkedIn to learn more. But we'd love to have you. If you're interested in checking that out, there's just an info form you can fill out. That's also available at nathancrankfield.com. You can fill out that info form and then take it from there as well, where you'll get contacted and we'll follow up with you to see what's the best fit for you. But if this kind of stuff is like, man, I really want to do this, I really don't want to be in the 91% that doesn't reach my goals this year, I want to make this year different, that might be the program for you that would help you to do that. Every single time in my life, in different areas of my life, from speaking to my personal finances to my physical fitness, when I've gone to the next level, I had coaching, I had accountability, I had people that were helping me to do that, people who were invested in my success. And that's what I want to be for people in this Excellent Life program. So if you want to go to the next level in 2025, then that program might be for you. Okay, so once you have some of that vision, this end of 2025, you have clarity on what you want that to look like. The next thing you want to think about a little bit is, what roles in your life do you really want to crush? So this is another section that I have in my year, planning or strategizing. I want to be the best I can be as a husband, as a father, as a podcaster, as a speaker, as a sales manager at work. And what else? What are the most important roles? You play 50 probably roles in the world. You can't excel at all of them. It's just a fact. And you can't please everybody. And so once you recognize and accept that, it really helps you to be clear on, okay, which ones are absolutely most important to me. For me, family, friends, relationally, it's absolutely husband and father. Those are the top two ones for me. Next, it's honestly me trying to fulfill those roles. It's how I play those other roles, right? As I get better as a podcaster, as a speaker, as a coach, as a sales manager, I'm going to be playing my husband and father roles better because I'm going to be providing more for my family. And I know that these things are the things that give me passion and purpose in life as well. Next, as we've already done some deep dive on what caused you to either achieve or fail in your goals from last year, now's the time to really start diving deep into those. And so for me, this was me saying, okay, what are my biggest threats or my biggest obstacles? What are the habits I have or that I'm lacking that if implemented or if avoided would be the most impactful on my year in 2025? When I did this exercise myself, I'll be very transparent. The first thing that came up for me is I was thinking about the themes of last year, things I need to do for this year. My number one phrase, my mantra for the year is control the controllables. Control the controllables. I've spent so much time and energy in 2024 trying to control other people, and not in a manipulative and crazy kind of way, but just like being too impacted by the decisions, arbitrary decisions, things that don't impact me or affect me, that other people make, the things other people say to me or about me, the things that other people make for dinner, or just decisions and choices people make that I'm like, I can't control that. I can't control if somebody invites me over for dinner and I'm trying to eat healthy and they made an unhealthy meal. What I can control is how much of that unhealthy meal I eat. Just because they made it all doesn't mean I need to binge it. And it doesn't mean that I need to, if I go out and have a cheat meal or somebody picks pizza, I don't have to take some home afterward. I can leave it there, right? And so thinking about that, how can I control the controllables, the aspects of my life that I can actually control? Now, that helped me bring it back into my biggest threats and my biggest needs. My number one thing, my number one goal or resolution for this year is joining the 5 a.m. club. I read the book, The 5 a.m. Club, in 2024. Don't necessarily recommend it. I thought it was kind of lame, but it was somewhat useful. It's kind of weird. It's definitely not like Catholic theology based. If there are, if you're a Catholic out there who's worried about personal development books because they can be funky, this is definitely a funky one. But it was motivational, inspirational enough for me to say, okay, I really want to try this. So I woke up this morning, the day of recording, at 5 a.m. I started warming up towards the end of the new year, or towards the end of the year, into the new year, into kind of vacation week still, saying, okay, all right, I've been sleeping until about 7:30, 7:45 every day. Let's wake up at 7, 6:30, 6, 5:45, till today at 5 a.m. I feel pretty great. Been exercising, like I said, and when I'm eating cleaner, it's not really hard for me to wake up early. So that's kind of my next one, is having a clean diet. Because I know the year that I did Whole30, even though I tore my Achilles like 9 days in or 7 days in, whatever it was, I still know that by day 3 of Whole30, which basically cuts out all sugar from your life and carbs, I know that by day 3, I did not need coffee anymore. And I wasn't sleeping for 11 hours a night. I literally was sleeping like 7 hours a night, and I was waking up and I was lit all day long. And I was like, man, this is crazy. And I know that when I go out for Chinese food at lunch or I have pizza for lunch, I feel like crap all afternoon. But if I have a pre-made meal from Emily, like a taco bowl or grilled chicken and rice or salad, then I feel great. I have no afternoon slump. Isn't that weird? Isn't that kind of crazy? When I have coffee and it has creamer and sugar and a bunch of crap in it, I get a little kick from it, but not much. But when I have black coffee, which I hate the taste of, or even just coffee with milk in it or creamer, wow, I feel a lot more of the caffeine. I don't need to drink as much of the coffee. Isn't that crazy? So this is what I'm talking about, where I start to say, well, if I wake up early, the things that I do, because I do the right things when I give myself the time and I don't get distracted, right? But I don't get distracted at 5 a.m. I get distracted at 7 p.m. when I'm tired and I'm feeling lazy. Every time I say, oh, I'll go to the gym while Emily's putting Jordan down, I never do it. But I think that to myself throughout the day. When I do go to the gym, like this morning when I woke up, I had 30 minutes of reading, 30 minutes of prayer, and then I went to the gym for an hour. And then I went and tried to go to confession, but they didn't have it. So I came back home. I showered, had breakfast with my family, and was working by 8:30. And I was like, this is incredible. I'm like, I'm praying, I'm reading, I'm exercising, like all the things that I want to do that are most important in my life, I get done. Why don't I get them done otherwise? Because I'm staying up too late typically, which is why I can't wake up early. Well, what am I doing staying up late? Am I doing anything productive or useful or that really matters to me? No, I wasn't. I'd just be scrolling the internet, doing stupid things, watching TV, watching sports, whatever it is. So thinking about that, I had to say, okay, if I want to be the best that I can be, I know that my three core habits, the three core habits of seeking excellence, are prayer, reading, and exercise. If I do those three things every day, I feel like a champion. I feel like a master of life. And so that's what I knew I needed to do. And so that was my big thing, was waking up on time, not eating a crappy diet so that I know that I can have the energy to get up on time. Making sure that I'm praying every day, because that was a huge thing that I implemented in 2024 that I wanted to keep going. Now, I've prayed before. 2024 was when I start praying, but I made my prayer life much more central to my life in 2024, where I spent the majority of days 30 minutes in the chapel, not just trying to pray on my couch or just, doing 5 minutes of prayer, falling asleep, praying the rosary, whatever. Like actually praying 30 minutes a day, and even, mixing in a couple holy hours a week as well. So that was huge, made a big difference in my life. And then the last one is limiting screen time. So I don't have a sponsorship for Brick. I don't know if you ever looked up Brick. I think you can look up Get Bricked Get Brick on Google. You can just search it. I don't have a sponsorship. This is not an ad for them, but I've bought it in 2024 and I really love it. It's basically a device that allows you to go in the app that they've created, and you can set certain apps as available when you're bricked. Otherwise, it literally does not let you use any apps. And so it will allow you to text, to call, use your calculator, and that's pretty much it. It's like it's supposed to make your phone a brick and make your phone back to what phones used to be, which is a communication device and not a source of your 24/7 entertainment. All right, so once you have your habits down, these are what I call the hinges of your success. You're not going to just set your goals. You need to be thinking about, what are the things that prevent me from achieving my goals, and how can I implement systems that help me to do that? So I made my 5 a.m. club. I plan out each morning, because each day of the week is different. Tuesday and Thursday, I go to the gym with a friend of mine in the morning. That's my plan. Monday, it's just a work day. And so I know that I'm getting to work. Friday mornings, I'm going to mass at 6:30. And so again, I have a shorter morning before I have to leave the house. So that's Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I know I only have from about 5 to 6:15 before I have to leave. Where Monday, Wednesday, I have more time. I'm not in a rush. I have 5 a.m. until Jordan wakes up. I go have breakfast with the family or whatever I decide to do those days. Another great idea for 2025 is to choose a saint and a word for the year. So if you know Jen Fulwiler, the Catholic comedian, she does a great job with this. She has this website that you can search. You can just search word of the year. You can search saint of the year, and it'll randomly generate one for you. I don't feel like the algorithm is necessarily led by the Holy Spirit always. And so sometimes it's nice to you can go through a few and find one that has patronage or some relevance to you. Don't just go through until you find one that you think is cool or popular, and don't ignore a word that you feel like is actually calling to you. My first word that I did was listen. And I actually feel like a fair amount of my life, I do more listening than speaking, which is surprising to people. But I do feel like that sometimes, where I feel like sometimes, whether it be friends or, family members, whatever, like I don't feel as though I'm the one that's under listening, if that makes sense. So getting that word was very challenging, but I'm trying to, make this my year of letting go of things, letting go of my expectations, and really just placing all my needs in God, and not always searching for those to be fulfilled by other people, but just trusting that God will give me what I need, whether that be through other people or through Him. And He gives me outlets like podcasting and writing. He gives me outlets like prayer. And I still have great people that I can talk to. But am I controlling the controllables? I can't control and force other people to listen, but I can spend time with the people and call people and connect with people who do listen. I can also utilize my other platforms and outlets like prayer and podcasting and creating, that help me to get things off my chest and help me to express myself in ways that are also fulfilling. And so that's what I mean there, right? Is we're going to control the controllables this year, and we're going to really focus on the things that are challenging us. So even if you get a word that's challenging, great, own it, keep it. It's only for a year. So I can go back to not listening in 2026. That's a joke, by the way. So finally, you're getting to the point where you're going to actually start to set your goals. You're going to use SMART goals where you can, but understand that in the 7 pillars, you can't always use SMART goals. SMART goals, for those who don't know, are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. I've heard a better one recently because I think achievable and realistic are kind of the same. I think that the change that I read, I think it was a Well-Ordered Family by Conor Gallagher. He said relevant, not realistic, but relevant. So achievable, relevant, things that are relevant to you, which I thought was interesting. Interesting word for it. So mental, easy one. That's a SMART goal for that. I want to read X number of books a year. One that's not as measurable is I want to learn more about X topic. That one's a little bit subjective, but you can still get to the end of the year and be like, I didn't learn anything about this, or I did, or I want to get more mentally tough. So I want to do something that's mentally challenging, whether that's fitness related, learning related, some type of challenge. Emotional, relational. These are really difficult to set measurable ones in, but it doesn't mean you can't. So one of the ones that I wanted to do was instituting or keeping up with date nights with Emily on Wednesday nights, even if those were simple things. So we kept Wednesday as the night that my mom would babysit, and we continued to spend intimate one-on-one time together on Wednesdays. You can set other relational goals like I want to go on a vacation with friends, or I want to get closer to this person. That might be less measurable, but you can still kind of know at the end of the year, did I achieve that or not? And looking at it throughout the year is going to help you to remember to do it and to take actions, to call that person, to text them, to ask them to spend time with you. Physical is probably the easiest place to set SMART goals. You know, I want to weigh this much, I want to lift this much, I want to run this fast, whatever it might be. But setting those goals is really good. You can still set some that aren't measurable, like I want to eat healthier. And one of the physical/spiritual ones we implemented in 2024 was no meat Fridays, which was really good. So that's another one that you can do. Then you have spiritual. This one's hard, but I encourage you to try to set more SMART goals in the spiritual life. Not just say, I want to get closer to God. If you just write that every year, it's like, what does that even mean? It's kind of difficult, right? So thinking, I want to volunteer more this year. I want to pray more this year. I want to pray 15 minutes a day. I want to pray 20 minutes a day. I want to pray on Hallow every day. I want to pray the rosary every day. Whatever it is for you that helps you to say, okay, even though I'm not going to hit that every day, I'm not going to hit it 365 days a year. Maybe you're a baller and you're going to, but you'll probably still do it more than you would otherwise. But if it's super vague, you can't be not measurable and not specific, right? Like I think it's helpful to at least have one of the two of those, especially in the spiritual realm. Professional. What kind of performance reviews do you want to get? How much money do you want to make in your career this year? Do you want to get a promotion or even just a pay raise this year? All these kinds of things to be thinking about in your spiritual or your professional goals. Is there a professional development conference that you want to go to? Are there professional books that you want to read? Webinars, whatever it is, relationships that you want to make to help with your professional life, side hustles. Do you want to increase, side income? That can really fall under professional or financial. Financial ones that are really good to have. How much money do you want to make? Obviously. How many income streams do you want to have? How early do you want to pay your taxes? How do you, two that I set for this year that I'm really dedicated to, giving and investing. So we've been really good always about tithing 10% of my base income, but we're not always good about that with my fluctuating income, my variable income, which is things like speaking or other things like that, right? We had the Airbnb all of last year. And so it's like when that kind of stuff comes in, am I really good and disciplined about at the end of the month taking 10% of that out and putting it in a giving account? I'm not. So then at the end of the year, what I typically will do, we're going to galas or there's things you can donate to. I try to just be generous. I try to say, okay, I come to this gala. This literally happened where I said I come to this with $1,000 to give. And that's kind of my plan. I felt the call and the move of the spirit, or maybe it was just the emotions of the night to give more than that during the fundraising portion of the night. And so I did. I just did it. And those are the kinds of things I get really proud of because it shows that while I am driven financially to be successful, if I feel like God's like, hey, I want you to give more than you plan on giving, I say, Roger that. I don't bat an eye. I don't hold back. And I try to say yes. Do I always do that? No. Am I perfect? No. But these are just kind of giving you ideas of how you can be driven and make sure that you're not becoming money hungry. A lot of people, I've noticed this a lot of times when it comes to finances, a lot of the Catholics and Christians who will tell you you're too money focused or you shouldn't be worried about money, they're not generous. And when people aren't generous, they get fearful of having more money because they know that money corrupts them and they already don't give. And so they're, I love the famous Tony Robbins quote. I quote this all the time. He says, if you won't give a dime out of $1, you're not going to give 1,000,000 out of 10 million. And I really, really believe that. As somebody who has, 4x my income over the last 5 years or whatever, 4 years, because I was barely making anything when I was working at a college in ministry, dude, if you won't give money then, you're not going to give it now. And I know there's a lot of people out there who get super tight. But I'm telling you, when I've probed and I've asked and I've seen people who are, oh, money's not good, or they just want to be simple and not make any money, they're typically not generous. They typically give 1 or 2% of their income, and it usually goes to their friends who are missionaries. And so if you're not giving, then you shouldn't be trying to make more money, because you probably will be corrupted by it. If you're not a good steward of it now, you're not going to be a good steward of it then. I really, really believe that. Last one, you want to set some personal goals. These are things like, we used to set goals like, we want to go to a Broncos game, want to go to a concert this year. I want to see a comedian live this year. I want to take a family vacation. We want to, do some of these things. These are just kind of silly, fun goals that you set for yourself or for your family that are not in the realm of the 7 pillars, but they can obviously affect your finances, your relationships, all those kinds of things, or they're just things that you just think are fun and you just want to do. I'm not all about business and growth and like you don't enjoy things. I think that's a dumb way to live. You should set goals that are fun and things that make you happy. Last few pieces of advice. I have just a few more pieces of advice. So you have set both outcome and action goals. So everything we just kind of walked through, you're probably going through and you're setting financial goals that are like, okay, I want to, have X net worth at the end of the year. I want to pay off my debt. I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, now we need action goals. And so a lot of people say do not even set outcome goals because they're not really that useful, because they're just talking about the end. But you also have to get to the means. What is your process for getting there? And so for me, what that looks like is I say, okay, I want my net worth to be this. What does that mean I have to do? Well, I need to break that down. So this is backwards planning. Well, I need to budget every month. Okay, that's good. I also need to invest X% every month of my income. Okay, that's great. I need to be mindful about this or that. I need to get rid of any debt that I have. I need to make wise decisions, again, going back to our plan of moving and buying houses, all that kind of stuff, right? Can throw off this goal that I have of X net worth at the end of the year. Other action goals. I set goals obviously for social media, for the podcast, for YouTube, right? As I was just mentioning, for locals. Okay, well, what are my action goals going to be? You're not going to just get YouTube subscribers because you wrote it down on January 1st that you want, 1,000 YouTube subscribers. No, you're going to get YouTube subscribers because you posted videos 3 times a week. And so I say, okay, this is how many videos I want to post throughout the year. Break that down to monthly, break that down to weekly. Okay, this is how many videos I want to do. And then when you're really serious about this, you're really serious about your life. This is why it takes me 2 to 3 hours. That's when I go through and say, okay, on Thursday morning, I'm going to plan my episode for Thursday afternoon. Thursday afternoon episode is going to be the episode that releases on Friday. On Friday, I'm going to record the episode that's going to release on Monday. And I'm going to plan it in the morning, write my outline, and then I'm going to record Friday afternoon. And then I do this for a few weeks and I say, okay, one of these pieces is not working. I've never done what I'm supposed to do on Tuesday. So I got to move that somewhere else and do something else here. These are the kind of things that help you to actually achieve your goals, where you're actually not just setting, okay, I want to do this, but you're making a plan. You're not just plotting where you are on the map now and plotting where you want to go. Now you do that. Those are the first 2 points. We just spent an hour talking about those. Now you want to actually start to route plan how you're going to get there. Where do you need to take a left? Where do you need to take a right? Where do you need to go straight? Having these different things is going to really help you to make the difference. So not just outcome goals, you also want to have action goals. My second big tip for you is to give yourself rewards for your achievements. So I've put down almost every single thing of my big outcomes that I want to achieve, whether it's losing a certain amount of weight, whether it's hitting my YouTube subscriber goals, Instagram goals, whatever it is. I set a reward for myself, whether it be a spa day or a nice steakhouse dinner, or it be allowing myself to use social media again on the weekends. You name it, right? There's different things for different pieces of my life, but I give myself, okay, if I do this, like, I'm going to reward myself. Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, that a lot of times we say we're going to do something and we're going to reward ourselves and we just don't. And it's stupid. It's really dumb. You have to treat yourself sometimes like you're a third person, like you're a different human being and you're in control of you. And you get to say, just like I tell Jordan, I say, hey, you eat 3 more bites of your eggs, I'm going to give you another piece of this pancake. And he does it. What if I didn't give him the pancake? How many more times would he be listening to me to eat his eggs? Sure, should he just listen to me because I'm his father? Yes. You should also just listen to yourself because you're you, but you don't, right? And you're human, and we recognize that we can't just give people false promises. So don't do that to yourself either. If you say you're going to splurge, or hey, I tell Emily, hey, if we are able to save this amount of money, when we want to buy a new family car this summer, we're going to get to buy this car instead of this car. And we say, okay, great. And if we don't do it, then we don't do it. You don't allow yourself to splurge where you shouldn't either. You have to be disciplined. But if we do save that much money, Great, then let's do it, right? If we can get our income up to this amount, awesome, then let's do it. And now we can buy the nicer family car. We reward ourselves for our achievements. So set rewards for yourself and honestly stick to that and honor that when you commit to that. The next thing, only 2 more things here real quick. One is you have to create a plan for following up. And so we do the weekly reviews that we have as a family. I have a template for that on Locals if you've never been there. I'll post that again this year, a weekly review there that helps you to stay on track with your goals and the things that you want to do. And then you have bigger monthly meetings where you review at least once a month. Better to keep these in front of you daily, weekly, but if at least once a month you're going through and checking your annual goals and saying, okay, which one of these this month could I potentially hit? And how am I doing on my action goals that are going to help me to get to the others, right? There might be one, especially the personal ones, that is like, okay, I want to, go to a Broncos game. Well, maybe we'll buy tickets this month if we have the money for it. Or you say, I want to lose this amount of weight. This month, I'm going to focus on getting an accountability partner for the gym. But you need to have a plan of how you're going to follow up with it. You can't just set it in January and then look at it again in December and think you're going to accomplish anything. That's an easy way to fall into the 91%. The last thing is to seek accountability. So you have to find some way in your life that you can have accountability. If you're married, this is a great person for that. If your spouse is not good at holding you accountable to things, then maybe you find a friend that you can meet with and you can chat with them about it. Maybe you find a spiritual director. Maybe you go to the same confession time and the same confessor every month or every couple of weeks when you go to confession. Whatever it is, you got to find a way for accountability. And it honestly, to me, I think that's one of the best things about programs like the Excellent Life program is having actual accountability. Emily tells me that now. She's in a coaching program for fitness during pregnancy. And she says, you know what's the best part of this program? And even though I pay for it and I could do this for free for myself, she says the best thing I pay for with this program is not the workouts. It's the fact that the trainer, the coach, follows up with her, that she messages her and says, hey, did you do your workouts today? And that's what I'm going to be doing for you and for people who are in the Excellent Life program. We set these goals and I say, hey, did you do that thing you said you were going to do this week, this month, whatever? That's helping you to achieve those goals. That's creating your action goals that are going to help you to actually get there. So all of this, I hope it was helpful. Man, I wish I could spend 2 to 3 hours with each one of you, deep diving this, going through this, setting these goals for you personally. Unfortunately, I cannot, but this is the best that we can get to that. So thank you so much for joining us in today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you would, as I said, I have these big goals for the year of YouTube subscribers, of Locals members and local supporters, but you can join Locals for free and you can see some of our resources and things on there that I mentioned, like the examination of excellence, the weekly tracker that we have. You can learn more about the Excellent Life program there. If you have any questions for me on anything that I said today, please feel free to reach out. I'm constantly getting on calls with people, phone calls, Zoom calls, people from LinkedIn, from Instagram, whatever. I love jumping on or even just messaging back and forth about the questions and things that you have in ways that I can help you. But again, if you want to go deep into this and you want to really have a structured time, one-on-one together to go to the next level next year, the Excellent Life program is the way for you. And if you're not ready to commit to that yet, then just subscribe to the content. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on LinkedIn where I post daily, and follow the podcast and share it with your friends. Whoever you want to be your accountability partner this year, share this episode with them and say, hey, let's do this exercise together. Let's get together for an hour at a coffee shop and do the things that he just said to do and share them with each other and help each other and poke holes and strategize and push back and all of that together. I hope that you'll do that with somebody this year. God bless you. I hope you make 2025 one of the best years in your life. I look forward to going through this year with you, right alongside of you as we pursue excellence and become the men and women that God created us to be. It is now time for you to go out there and be your best. I'll see you next time.